Hi, weirdos. You are listening and maybe even watching Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things strange, spooky, unexplained, diabolical, bizarre, kooky, sciencey, silly, and everything in between. Each week we sit down together from, sadly, across the country, and we talk about something weird. And today is no exception, of course, as we bring you 4 unusual and mind-bending segments ranging from medical mysteries to a Buddhist garden that makes you want to throw up and cry. We really got it all here on this show, so whatever you're into, you have a safe space with us ghosty gals. We don't shame, don't you worry. Don't go anywhere because we're about to get down and dirty with some wacky weirdness. Because my name is Lauren, and this is my lovely co-host, Ashley.
Hi, weirdos. Bad news.
Oh, no.
The pink nails are gone.
You're so boring.
Don't even know who I am anymore.
Trash.
I used to have all that pink Barbie energy, and now I have nothing.
You have nothing to live for at this point.
I don't. I even tried to put on pink lipstick, like bright pink lipstick like usual, and I wasn't feeling it, so I put on like a more muted pink. I just feel my eyeshadow's kind of pink. Just
I was
like
going to say your eyeshadow it's a nice pop. The eyeshadow is not sad pink, but I'm sorry you lost the Barbie energy. It was really special.
Yeah, I had to get my nails removed because they were grown out, and things just haven't been the same.
I know.
So.
You lost a little bit of magic, but, I think the listeners will love you all the same. I really think so.
You know what is going to give me magic? Oh,
hey.
It's that sugar-free A&W root beer, baby.
Somebody said the words root beer to me yesterday, and I've been craving one ever since, so you are living my truth.
This is no joke. The best. It tastes just like root beer. Can't believe it doesn't have sugar. In fact, they could be lying to me, and I wouldn't even care. I'm still going to drink it.
Yeah, don't even be mad about it. Take that sugar. But you are a gym rat now, so I feel like sugar, you really care about the sugar in your life.
Yeah, that's true. Every sugar is as important as breathing. We are going to hop right into it today because I don't know about you, but my notes are long as hell. So, first, though, I did want to make sure you guys knew we do have a phone number now where you can leave us a voicemail. You can comment on a recent segment that we've discussed. You can ask us a question you'd like us to answer on the show. Tell us a scary story. Give us a segment idea or a topic idea. And that number is 626-686-1821. So save that number and give us a call and leave us a message. We would love to hear your voice. We haven't gotten enough phone calls from you. We're feeling very disappointed.
We want some more. We really want some more. Call us.
Do.
Love you.
Call us.
So
Love
call
you.
us.
Bye.
Call me, maybe.
All right, let's hop right into it because we've got a lot today. So, Lauren, you're going to go first.
Let's do it. This was a segment that I came up with and thought that my theme song was terrible for it, but Ashley actually enjoyed it. So I'm going to keep going with it until somebody tells us otherwise. But this is a little segment we call Where in the World is Keep It Weird Going? Where in the world is Keep It Weird going? Where are we going? Going to a weird place. Where are we
going today? Is it the Buddhist garden that you mentioned in the opening?
It sure is.
Ding!
Yay! Yay! A Buddhist hell garden, that is, which I feel like I'd heard this term before, but I thought it was just somebody being extra and exaggerating, but there are Buddhist hell gardens. It is a very common thing. And also, Ashley, you're the only one who will understand this reference, but we're traveling to Thailand to get it, and I did not even mean to do that, but I told you over the weekend.
You're all about Thailand recently.
Thailand has been my life.
My Thai queen.
Yep. Which I guess this does pertain to the listeners too, just really quick. I know we have a lot to get to, but the listeners were the ones that suggested the movie I watched over the weekend, which was a Thai horror movie called The Medium. It was fucked up, but it was good. It was really good. I thought the acting was amazing. I had a blast. And then I also watched a lot of Real Housewives hanging out in Thailand. So it's just The theme of my life right now. Here
You're
we
all
go.
about it. Yeah, I told you. I was like, you should have ordered Thai food. What were you thinking?
What a missed opportunity. Maybe tonight I can just really like wrap up this Thailand streak
Do
with
it.
some Thai food. So we are traveling to Thailand to a Buddhist hell garden called Wang Saen Suk, or Saen Suk. Of course, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Wang Saen Suk is a temple garden filled with grotesque statues depicting the tortures you can expect to endure in hell if you commit various sins in your life, according to Buddhist beliefs. So just
Jeez,
like
oh man.
Christians, Catholic, like anybody, I feel like most religions you have the belief of a hell. I know not every single one, but I don't think I realized that Buddhism, certain, areas of Buddhism also believe in a hell and also have, they're like not the 10 Commandments, but they have like 5 rules that you cannot break or you will be tortured forever. And there is a whole ass garden that you can go visit
Wow.
in Thailand where it's just like colorful painted statues that you think are going to be fun from a distance, but they are super gory, graphic, horrific ways of people being punished if they commit one of the sins. So it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it
No,
honestly
why?
sounds like, why? What? Who? It sounds like some
enjoy
of our
this?
weirdos might enjoy it. It's dark, it's macabre, it's got our vibe. So if you have visited, please let us know, or if you plan to visit, hit us up. I want to hear. But the belief is that Buddhist hell is separated into specific rings called Naraka, and Wang Saen Suk Hell Garden features plenty of these rings from hell, and you could easily spend the better part of your day wandering through the exhibits. It's not just a quick, like, oh, we went for an hour. Like, this could take you all day if you can keep up with it, because it's a lot.
Yeah.
As you walk into the garden, at first sight, you see 2 giant emaciated figures with protruding stomachs and long tongues that come all the way down to the ground. And they are called the Prayat, or hungry ghosts. And as a result of the sins committed in their previous lives, they now suffer from eternal and insatiable hunger. So pretty much every punished,
That's my life.
constantly starving,
So hungry all the time.
just so hungry. It's hard to, keep the summer body going. I'm starving. They are the hungry ghosts in pretty much every statue in this garden. You can see its ribs, you can see their entire spine. They're starving, they're miserable, hanging out down in hell. So as a result of the sins they committed, they are in eternal misery. One of them is female and has a plaque at her feet saying it was a woman who made mistakes in the world of sexual intercourse and misconduct. She had mind without morality, very loosely translated. And then the male ghost is a man who did mistakes like vice, disorderly conduct, and after dead, he became this ghost to pay forever. So he might have been more of like a gambler. Maybe he was dabbling in some drugs, but no. But the 5 precepts are harming living things, taking what is not given, sexual misconduct, lying or gossiping. I'd be dead. I'd be out of there. And taking intoxicating substances. Also, right, not great. I love a gossip sesh, and I love a glass of wine and some marijuana every now and then. So I don't think they'd like me
to go
much here,
along
but
with my gossip sesh.
for
What
sure.
if the gossip is like totally innocent and you're just sharing with your friend who also loves gossip?
Well, are we talking shit about people though? Probably.
Depends on what you mean by talking shit about people.
How bad
This would
is the
totally
shit
be me
talk?
when I die too. If they're like,
know.
you are going to the 4th ring of hell for gossiping, and I'll be like, well, hold on just one second.
Whoa.
When you say gossiping, what do you mean? Because I
What do you
do think
actually
I'm a
mean?
busybody. I do think I maybe too often enjoy talking about other people, but I don't do it maliciously, and I would never gossip about someone to someone else that wasn't like a good friend, that I was just like,
Yeah. Yeah. Like
be
it's a
me.
trusted safe space. But yeah, I would be the exact same way. I love that you use the term busybody, because I said that to a friend the other day and she was like, "Are you from the 50s?" And I was like, Excuse you.
me?
I am a busybody. I have
Busybody's
my
a
nose.
totally modern.
It is. I use it all the time because I am a busybody. My nose is in everyone's business. If I don't know the tea, I am upset. So anyway, I would for
If
sure
I
be
am
in this
on
hell.
Facebook and you post something vague, I will search through your timeline like I don't have 1,000 other things to do. Like it's my only task.
I'm one of those people, there's so many memes and TikToks about this where it's like, my friend sent me like somebody's home address and their like wedding date and their wedding album and what day they got divorced. Like every detail of some guy from high school that we haven't spoken to in 10 years. And my friends always send me like some form of that, like some variation of that meme because I am known as that psychopath that's like, did you hear about Billy and Sarah? And they're like, I haven't talked to them since graduation day. I'm like, they got divorced. Oh, yeah.
I get it from my parents, though, because my parents will literally text me and be like, guess who was in the newspaper? And I'm like, tell me all about it. Or they'll be like, guess who's pregnant again? I'll be like, who? Like, they are totally... And my dad would... If you looked at him, you would never think that he was a gossip. But this man plays cards at a tavern at like 6 a.m. every Saturday morning, and he will come home with the fucking tea. Okay? He will come home with the tea. Those old men are talking shit about everybody, and you will get all the tea that you want.
I love that. Yeah, people pretend they aren't busybodies. Like, I'm sure your dad would be like, what? No, I don't gossip. But he doesn't even realize he's doing it. It's just fun at the card game.
It's just human nature. And I've, speaking of Buddhist hell, I've actually never studied this realm of Buddhism because all the Buddhism that I've studied talks about hell as basically like a state of mind that you're in on Earth.
Sure.
Like you can literally put yourself into hell while you're alive, living your life on Earth, and that's sort of like their version of hell. But I know that there are some sects of Buddhism that have like a literal afterlife hell. Right. So this is fascinating.
I know, because I feel the same. I sort of knew that way as well, of like a lot of Buddhism practice is kind of the state of being and, you know, altering your mind to get to a certain place. So I didn't realize all of this afterlife type hell, but it is brutal. So
seriously.
Below these hungry ghosts that greet you when you enter the garden, they just start you off real strong. They're huge. Below these ghosts.
Grim grinning ghosts.
Grim grinning ghosts are out to murder you.
Socialize.
Oh, no. They have a spear and they're going to kill you. But below these ghosts
are out to torture you in Buddhist hell.
That's what it was. Yes, that was right. Ashley had it. So below the ghosts is a big boiling pot filled with people who are being cooked, while what appear to be guards along the perimeter of the pot stabbing you while you're being burned alive in a boiling pot. So it's just like really relaxed. It's like a serene, really nice meditative environment. Surrounding the hungry ghosts as you start to walk in are lots of human figures with heads of different animals on top. And plaques below them say that each animal head represents a spirit assigned to different sins. So there are more than 20 different spirit animals. I won't list all of them, but a few are exploiting others, spirit of the dog, corruption, spirit of the pig, destroying property belonging to other people, spirit of the rat, destroying wildlife. Which, like, well, I'm okay with that. Like, get them. Don't let them destroy them.
Get them. Put them in hell. Put them in a pot. Stab them with
Put them in a pot. Boil them up. Spirit of the deer for destroying wildlife, which feels right.
Okay.
Selling drugs, spirit of the cow, stealing aquatic animals, spirit of the fish, which, I didn't realize this was happening, but...
Okay, SeaWorld.
I know. Okay, SeaWorld, we're looking at you.
Mark your calendar for hell.
We see you. They all have their animals, and you're introduced to them as you go in. And they are definitely not easy to look at, because, again, it's the animal head, but on an emaciated body, so it's a little upsetting, but everyone always says in their, like, travel reviews, I was reading a few people's blogs, like, this is child's play, because what comes next is terrible. So you keep going past all the animal spirits. It is your warning that worse things are coming. And then you just see all of these different statues being punished in different ways. Like it'll be two people standing up with a spear or some kind of weapon or fire or whatever it is, or they just have something in their hands and someone is down on their hands and knees with one of the animal heads and receiving some horrible punishment. They're all super bloody and disturbing. There's one that comes up right away, which is sexual misconduct or paramour with other wives or husbands. And it is people climbing up spiky trees naked while also being chased by dogs and pecked at by birds from the top.
Good Lord.
And it's just blood everywhere. Like some of them are even being stabbed in the gut at the same time. It's brutal. Most
Does this
punishments.
garden, is it like IKEA where there's exits along the way?
If you need to branch off, come this way.
If you need to leave,
It's not like it's a maze or
door.
something where you can't turn back. I think if you're like, this is team too much and I've had it, you can absolutely turn back and go out, or like there's little side exits.
It sounds, as far as I can tell, I have not seen a photo yet, so I cannot say for sure, but it sounds like I could spend more time in this creepy hell garden than I could in an IKEA.
Same. IKEA is a lot, so I don't blame you for that. The silver lining after all of these horrific, graphic torture statues, depictions of the punishment, the only silver lining for those tortured in the Narakas is that there is an end in sight. Although it might be billions of years down the road, according to the Buddhist beliefs, transgressors who prove that they are remorseful and truly repent are eventually relieved of their punishment in the circles of hell. And this idea of repentance is in line with the concept of karma, that even the damned are in control of their future, but they have to alter their mindset and they have to truly take accountability and, actually feel bad for what they've done. Show that there is a good person in there somewhere, buried deep.
Yeah.
So they can be let out, but it could be after a billion years. So you're going to suffer and bleed for a while.
Who after the first peck of that bird isn't like, I'm sorry, it was my fault, I did it, and I'm sorry.
I would ask for forgiveness immediately if I'm getting
Which is
pecked at.
why it seems to me the torture, even though it's depicted as this like physical pain, may be like a mental anguish. It's hard to depict mental anguish, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So
Right.
it may really be a mental anguish where you have to, for some reason, I keep thinking of Scandoval. I keep thinking of Tom Sandoval, where it's like you are never going to heal until you take accountability for your actions, until you take accountability for the fact that you're not a good fucking dude, and then you can move on.
That is so true.
But it starts there. You can't just
It does.
continue to be like, it's the world, it's this person did this, and that's why I
I'm
did
being
that, and
attacked,
she did
and-
this, which is why I did that. And it's like, no. Take accountability for your behavior, and then you can truly move on.
Yes, then
And
we can all
basically
move
that's hell.
forward. And that is hell. I know. And it
that's
truly
Buddhist
is hell. In your anguish, yes. That you are so
Absolutely.
right. And it can totally be mental. Obviously, they're showing these dramatic depictions,
Yeah.
but it can still very much be in your head, and you'll be tortured by the fact that you did something so shitty. Sandoval, we're all looking at you.
Sandoval.
But you have to take accountability. One of my favorite fun facts is that this isn't the only hell garden. There are many. I'm not going to list them all because I cannot pronounce the names, and I know that there is forgiveness there, and our listeners are always like, oh, you did the best you could, but these are even more difficult than the original one that I said.
Right.
So just know that there are 4 other gardens, and then there is one hell temple. And next time you're in Thailand, maybe you either just go to this one if you want to only do one and just dip your toe in, or you can go on a full temple tour.
Take a tour.
Because Thailand has a million.
What else do you have going on besides taking a hell tour in Thailand?
Duh.
What do you want? Peace? What do you want? Tranquility?
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Then this is somebody getting sawed in half.
Oh.
Again, over
I
here.
wasn't picturing them wearing fun little shorts, though. Like when
know
you
why
described
that's-
them to me, I did. My mind did not put in the fun little shorts.
Well, the people offering the punishments don't have to be nude. They get to wear fun little shorts because they're in charge in Buddhist hell. Oh, that is so funny. Well, yeah. So that's the Buddhist garden. If you want to go
Hell garden.
visit.
And they call them hell gardens.
Yes,
so
well,
metal.
that's our translation of them, but basically,
Right.
yeah, Buddhist hell gardens, which is just showing you what hell will look like. And they originally started, again, there's quite a few, but I think the first one, it was maybe the temple opened first, and it was just totally a way for the adults to scare the shit out of the kids and be like, well, this is what happens, so you better act right. I was like, I get that.
Yep.
Keep them in line, you know?
Sort of like, what are those weird Christian haunted houses where you can go through and, like, you think it's just going to be like a haunted house attraction, but really it's a bunch of Christians being like, this is how you'll get tortured in hell.
My God, do those
Do you
even
know
have
what
a
I'm
name,
talking
or is
about?
it just... I do know
It
what
might
you're
just be
talking
weird
about, but do
Christian
they...
haunted
No.
house.
Yeah, it could be
I don't
weird,
know if they have
weird
an
Christian
actual name.
haunts.
Oh, they're called hell houses. Huh. Well.
Hell House.
What do you
That makes
know?
sense.
Hell House,
Hell
Hell
House
Garden.
LLC.
I think it's kind of the same. I think it's kind of the same. Ooh, got questions? Should a Christian go to a haunted house? You know what? I'll save that question for the next time we record. Should a Christian go to a haunted house? And I'm going to do some research and see what these people have to say. Wow. Well, I love hell gardens. Can't wait to visit one.
Yep. We're all heading to Thailand, just like the Real Housewives. I can't wait.
Just like the Real Housewives. So, I don't know what to call this segment. I didn't come up with a cool intro, but I figure it's going to be called Real or Hoax.
Ho, ho, ho.
Real or hoax. So, the internet is a mysterious place. Okay?
Sure.
The world is full of spooky stories about people receiving creepy messages on their computers. But one fella's story comes from before we even had the internet, and the messages he received on his computer might have been coming from the past.
But wait, pre-internet?
Pre-internet.
He just received a message. Okay, just tell me. Just tell me the story.
Yeah. This is the story of the DODLESTON Messages. So, back in 1985, and before anyone asks, I know the internet existed before 1985, but no one had it at home. Okay? So, shut up.
So everyone shut up.
Back in 1985, a man named Ken Webster and his girlfriend Debbie moved into an 18th century brick cottage in Dawdleston, England. What a dream. But also, just a note, you know that place is going to be haunted going in.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't act all surprised when ghosts start talking to you when you move into an 18th century cottage.
It's screaming ghosts. Yeah,
it's
gonna
screaming.
You don't
Ghosts
have a choice.
live here.
Yes.
But I digress. They moved into this cottage. They had a friend of theirs named Nick staying with them at this time. And they were renovating this home when strange things started to happen. The first of which was when the three of them found 6-toed footprints, which I guess that means both feet had 6 toes. Not that between the 2 feet there were 6 toes, but 6-toed footprints that seemed to walk up the wall between the bathroom and the kitchen. Oof.
Okay. I hate that more than anything you've ever said. Okay.
I don't like that at all. Ken, Debbie, and Nick all thought it was a prank. One of them was pulling on the other, but no one would own up to it. So then they also thought maybe someone from a recent party they had did it as a prank. But eventually Nick took a rag, wiped the footprints away as much as he could, and then took a paintbrush and a gallon of paint and covered the footprints up for good. Or so he thought, because supposedly the footprints reappeared the next day. Like the same 6-toed footprints walking up the wall.
I hate that.
All three of them insisted that they didn't do it, and seeing as it was the exact same footprints as before, they all started to believe each other. But they were obviously stumped. Over the next week or so, more things started happening. There were cold spots. There were gusts of wind inside the home when windows and doors were shut tight. There were shadows, like strange shadows that moved in the darkness, and the feeling of someone watching them when they were alone in the room, and especially when they were alone in the cottage. And they started finding towers of cat food. 2 separate towers of cat food cans neatly stacked in pyramids. Strange, but
Very strange.
Pretty benevolent, so they just went about their
Right.
lives. Ken, at the time, was teaching at a local school, and one day he brought home a computer he borrowed from that school. It was a BBC microcomputer, and this was as I said before, long before the days of home internet, and most people have barely even used a computer. This is the kind of computer in movies where it's just like a blank screen and like green words are on it. And you're like, where's that being saved? How do you find it later? Like, what?
What do all these numbers and
back
letters
then
mean?
too didn't even save shit. Like, you would type shit up and you could like print it. But then once the computer was shut down, once you shut down the computer, like that was just gone. Anyway.
Game over,
Game over, man. Game over.
Game over, man.
One day, when Ken returned home from work, there was a flashing message on his computer screen. It read, "True are the nightmares of a person that fears. Safe are the bodies of the silent world. Turn, pretty flower, turn towards the sun, for you shall grow and sow. But the flower reaches too high and withers in the burning light. Get out your bricks. Pussycat, pussycat went to London to seek fame and fortune. Faith must not be lost, for this shall be your redeemer." Okay.
Okay.
A little poem.
Listen here. If this was in the age of like nobody could send you a message, we are not at that point, as you said, even if the internet existed. So that would be the equivalent now of, unless someone, I guess people now can hack your computer from afar, but like if I left my MacBook open and like went and ran an errand, and then when I came back there was a note typed in like my Word document that I was working on.
Exactly.
Like I feel like that would be that same moment of like, how is this here? Who was it? What? Yeah, I'd be horrified, especially with that message. Makes me want to cry.
Ken showed Debbie. They read the strange poem and they kind of shrugged and moved on because honestly, who knows what these wacky computing machines are up to anyway? You know, it was just sort of like, I don't know what that means. A few days later, another message appeared. This one said, "I write on behalf of many. What strange words you speak. You are a worthy man who has a fanciful woman, and you who dwell in my home with lights which the devil makes, it was a great crime to have stolen my house. LW." Okay, even weirder. Seems like the message is actually to us, but
yes, it's become very personal.
Computers, question mark? I don't know. Like, they didn't know what to think of it.
Yeah,
but after this,
like,
messages,
it's just this newfangled technology that we don't understand.
Seriously, like I don't know what this is. Like, maybe it's built into the machine, and like that's a screensaver. Right. What's a screensaver? Like, this was 1985, so the messages began appearing every day. Now, they'd always appear when they were sleeping, or when they were out, or when they were in the other room. Like, they never appeared while they were actively watching the computer, but they would appear when they were home, just in the other room, or when they were both out and they would come home and there would be a message on the computer. Like, it was happening all the time. The messages claimed they were written by a man named Lucas from 1546. He claimed he had built the cottage. Lucas was angry that there were other people that seemed to be living in his home. Over the next 18 months, Ken wrote back and forth to this Lucas guy, asking him questions about who he was and the time that he lived. Lucas seemed at first to be very suspicious of Ken's motives, but eventually warmed up and started telling him more and more information, including, but not limited to, his real name, Thomas Hardin. He said he lied about his name initially to protect his identity because he could be hung for sedition or heresy.
Oh my God.
So, there were also...
This is juicy as fuck.
It's so juicy. There were also a few messages passed between them that suggested that Thomas could actually, or at least occasionally, see the couple in their home. Like, at one point, he sent a message asking a question about a photo of a Jaguar car that was near the computer, like sitting near or hung near the computer. And he said something to Ken about the car being a crude thing that won't go far without a horse. And Ken responded telling him the car can drive on its own without a horse, and Thomas was stunned.
Okay, so Thomas is from a different time, maybe.
1546, supposedly.
What's happening? What's happening?
Well, just wait for this. Okay,
Oh, no.
So 1546 is where Thomas is supposedly writing from. 1985 is supposedly where Ken is writing from. This is where it gets even weirder. Ken tells Thomas he's writing from 1985, and Thomas responds by saying, I thought you were also from 2109, like your friend who brought the box made of lights.
What's going on?
It was through this light box that Thomas was able to send messages to Ken. So Ken was like, holy shit, did someone from the year 2109 time travel to 1546 and bring this guy a computer?
Oh my gosh. I want to say real, not hoax, because this is so exciting.
It's so weird. So then they talked a little bit more about it. Thomas told him something about how he was important and this being gave him this box and how dangerous it is for him to be messaging and messing with any of this stuff. So Ken types a message on his computer to the being from 2109, and he got a message in return.
No.
The message read, try to understand that you three have a purpose that shall in your lifetime change the face of history. We, 2109, must not affect your thoughts directly, but give you some sort of guidance that will allow room for your own destiny. All we can say is that we are a part of the same God, whatever he is.
Well, that last part was a little beautiful.
Yeah, I mean...
Kind of. I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel.
So 2109 continued to communicate with Ken and Debbie and claimed that the fact that they had discovered Thomas's real name might have put the experiment in jeopardy. So they called it an experiment.
Oh.
Eventually, Thomas wrote saying he was being forced to leave his land. He said he would write his version of the events as a book and leave it somewhere that it could be found in the future so Ken and Debbie would know he was telling the truth. Unfortunately, to this day, though, no book has ever been found. Now, what? Who? This?
I have no words, first of all. Like, I have no idea what's going on here, but also... part of me is like, what if the book has been found and it's been made into a story that we all have like been reading all this time and been like, what a fun fiction book.
Time travel epic.
Love this. But it was really his story the entire time that somebody was just like, look at this novel I wrote. We don't know. Maybe Thomas's words are out there.
Or
also,
someone found a handwritten book somewhere and was like, oh, how fascinating. And then like gave it to a museum and it's just sitting somewhere and no one has done anything with it.
No.
So this has been investigated. In fact, while they were still receiving the messages, the year and a half that they were receiving the messages, they did invite a paranormal team to stay at the cottage for a number of days. But no activity occurred while they were there, which is suspicious, but also not surprising. It doesn't just happen when you want it to.
Yeah, for sure.
Me and Natalie investigated my house I grew up in, and a literal month later, a large tumbler yeeted itself across the kitchen while me and my mom were in the next room, and we got nothing. So like,
that was the actual text happen. Ashley sent me. I also have to say, by the way, you were like, so remember how me and Natalie didn't find anything in our investigation? Yeah, why? A tumbler just yeeted itself off the counter, and my mom and I...
is the only appropriate word for what the tumbler did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you and your mom were terrified. It was perfect. Yep.
Yeah, especially my mom. I made her go check on it. Pam. I didn't want to go in there. And I'm the baby, so I don't have to.
I'm the baby. Gotta love me.
Gotta love me. So Ken Webster ended up writing a book called The Vertical Plane, The Mystery of the Dodleston Messages, a Bizarre Record of Communication Through Time. And apparently it's wacky as all get out. There are a ton of other messages coming through, like he documents every message back and forth. There's a storyline in which the local sheriff is the one who's running Thomas out of his home because people in town figure out about the light box, and Ken and Debbie are trying to find a way to save this man's life from the future, which has like very strong frequency vibes. And
1000%.
They don't really do interviews, and he didn't really ever write anything else, so no one really knows if this story, The Vertical Plane, is based on the strange messages, or these are all real. This is all really what took place, and they're just documenting the actual truth. Nick Points, a history enthusiast with a master's degree in early modern history from Birkbeck University of London, read this book and was fascinated by the messages. The book, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the book is pretty hard to find. You can buy the paperback on Amazon.com for $170 if you wish. But
yikes.
But if you look up the blog titled Ghost in the Machine by Mercurius Politicus, Nick does detail the events of the book. So you can kind of read like a detail of the events of the book if you don't want to like pay $170 for the whole book. But in the blog, he claims that Thomas's messages are written in a way that is consistent with the dialect and old-fashioned spellings of the time and region Thomas was supposedly messaging from. And it does seem there was, in fact, a Thomas Harton living in Dodleston in 1546. He was a vicar, according to church records, which kind of makes the book creepier because there's a lot of, like, nuns and stuff referenced and, like, you know, being burned
Horror
for
movie,
heresy. And
time travel
it's
movie,
a
all waiting to happen.
horror time travel movie. But, yeah, so Nick Points is one of the linguists who say that the way he talks is appropriate for the time period, but there are other linguists who have studied the text that say that it's not consistent at all. And I'm not an expert in linguistics, so I can't tell you either way, but it's half and half.
Yeah. Okay.
Most people chalk this up to being one big hoax. That either Debbie was writing the messages and totally fooling Ken for a year and a half, which seems unhinged, or
I don't understand why she would do that, but hey, maybe Debbie had this secret,
sometimes you
secret
get bored.
urge to prank her hubs. Who knows?
Or Ken made up the whole true story aspect of it and just wanted to sell a really spooky book. Or that someone in 1985 had enough computer savvy to be able to hack into their computer to leave the messages as a prank of some kind. But Debbie has corroborated the story. She even claimed she was having dreams about Thomas. This was back when he was still Lucas, in which she was spending time with him in the 1500s, including a very vivid dream in which they made candles together. Nick, their friend who lived with them for a while, whose full name is Nicola Baguillet, and a few other friends have come forward in the years since all of this took place. They have given testimony to support the creepy happenings that were going on at the cottage, and they have said straight up Ken was a pretty serious dude and that perpetuating a hoax to bring any attention on himself, negative or otherwise, would be very out of character for him.
Okay. All right. And I mean, obviously, we don't know these people. We don't know what's going on. But I feel like when friends and family say that, because we've told stories like that before, where it's like, this is not them at all. I promise you, they were not looking for attention. I believe those people. Like if that is not in their character, they've never done this before, then I would want to believe it.
Yeah.
I'm a little scared though. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy. At the end of the segment of Real or Hoax, I want to give a real, a hoax, or a who's to say decision based on the information that was provided to me in my research. And in this case, I have to go with who's to say, because it's hard to say Ken and Debbie deliberately did this as a hoax, especially because aside from the book being written, they pretty much disappeared off the face of the earth. I'm even almost positive Ken Webster is a pseudonym, like it's not his real name, because I can't find any information on him as a writer.
Oh,
they made no money off of this aside from whatever meager earnings made off of this book that he barely promoted. Yeah. So I don't necessarily think it was a hoax, but I also don't know if I believe it was a vicar from 1546. So who's to say?
Who's to say? I'm going to say real because I like to believe in magic.
I'm going to say real because Thomas seems like he was going through it.
Thomas is legit in my head. I believe it. No, I mean, who's to say is the correct
say?
answer, because who's to say? I don't have enough information, and I don't know the language, so I wouldn't be able to have that linguistics knowledge to be like, oh, this is definitely, he was doing it right. But you know what? I think this is a fun story, and so I'm going to believe
I'm going to believe in it.
Real.
It's real.
I'm going to believe it's real. Man, that's wild, though.
DODLESTON messages. Fucking weird.
Well, that's kind of a nice segue into my next section, which also goes along the lines of real or hoax, because it's not a good hat, but it's here. Did he do it? Did they find a body? It's a mystery. I don't know if it's true. Is the government out to get us? It's time for conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory.
Hello.
Hello.
It's a new
Welcome.
segment. I'll leave it on for a minute. This is a new segment. Nope, it's not going to stay. Called Conspiracy Theories. I don't know.
Totally gonna
Maybe
fucking
we'll
make
come up with something
myself
better.
a tinfoil hat to keep on my desk for the next time there's a conspiracy theory episode or segment, because what am I gonna do? You've got me here. I don't have anything to put on my head to protect myself.
Oh. Conspiracy
theories.
theories. First of all, it's about time we add a conspiracy theory segment, because we've had some absolute blast, so fun, so fascinating
Love 'em.
episodes on conspiracy theories. We've had some epic ones over the years with creepy, maybe true, like super silly ones. We like to giggle. We like to poke fun at Joe, obviously, mostly me. We've had a good time. And sometimes, though, I do just want to say before I jump into conspiracy theories, sometimes conspiracy theories can be a bit dangerous. And we did an episode on this as well. I actually think the best one was when you and Joe did a conspiracy theories one in like the height of COVID, I remember. And you guys just talked about how they can be dangerous, and always do your own research. There is a lot of misinformation, and in some cases, conspiracy theories could make you harm yourself, harm others. So obviously, you have to be careful with them. However,
Anti-vaxxers.
there are some that are just Trumpers. All of them. But as long as you're not being dangerous with your claims, we can all have a good time with
can all have
conspiracy
fun,
theories.
okay?
So this is not always how the segment will go. Sometimes we'll probably just bring one theory and like kind of discuss it and say what we think. But today I'm doing something kind of fun where I wanted to do one conspiracy theory it started as a conspiracy theory and then was proven true.
Okay.
And then I also want to do one that is like 90% not true, but the evidence that was found on it is just so fun, is like the best word I can think of, or like the person went to great lengths to put together what they did, so it's worth noting.
Love it.
So that is what's happening today, and they're both like a little shorter. But first up, have you guys heard of, have you heard, I'm acting like our listeners can respond, have you heard of Project Sunshine from the 50s?
Project Sunshine from the 50s. Ooh, I don't think so.
So, throughout the 50s and 60s, there were wild rumors about the government possibly stealing bodies in order to study the effects of radiation in the human body after nuclear testing, which the study of the human body was needed.
Yeah.
But the conspiracy was everyone was like, I'm pretty sure they're stealing like dead babies' bodies. Like it was, everyone was, but then it was like, no.
They
like,
wouldn't
it's
do
legit.
that.
We've seen about it in the
government
news. They would
wouldn't
never.
do that.
Never. They don't do that stuff. So, in 1955, let's get to what was happening. The U.S. Atomic Energy Commission came up with a plan to collect human tissue and bone, particularly that of children was the main goal, in order to carry out some, what ended up being a little shady and questionable experiments that wouldn't be known fully or publicly until 40 years later in 1994. And in these early days of nuclear weaponry, we didn't know the effects. We didn't know what was going to happen. Totally valid. We had estimates on how much radioactive strontium, is that how you would say it? Strontium?
Strontium? How do you spell it?
Strontium. I'm pretty sure it's strontium.
Damn, I have no idea. I don't think I've ever heard that word. So you
Basically,
can say
it's a terrible
it
thing.
however you like.
Whatever I damn well please. Pretty sure it's strontium, but it comes from like, you know, any kind of nuclear blast. There is the ability for something called radioactive strontium to enter a person's bloodstream. And they had learned from animals that it's not great, but they wanted to see what would happen long term with humans. So they had estimates on radioactive strontium produced by tests, and they thought there could be enough to kill a person, but the exact fallout or the exact effects of fallout on humans and human tissue were still unknown and unstudied.
Yikes.
So we needed to get something. We needed answers because scientists were baffled. They were getting worried. They were getting anxious the more this was happening, and the world was just going on, testing all these crazy nuclear weapons. And it was like, wait. So there was a scientific event called the Sunshine Conference, which was all meant to look at the long-term effects of atomic weapons. And scientists there argued in favor of sampling strontium fallout in humans to determine these damaging levels in different populations. And because they were at the Sunshine Conference, it became Project Sunshine,
That
which
makes
is
sense.
so
That was
happy-go-lucky.
So happy. Yeah,
and
when you said
jolly.
Project Sunshine, I was like, is this the conspiracy theory that the sun's not real?
Yeah, have you not heard?
The government makes the sunshine?
I know.
Which,
They
like,
do. It's just like been a flashlight in the sky.
yeah,
You know.
it's just projected into the sky to
It's
make
just
us
been
think
projected
there's
this
a
entire
sun.
time, you sheep. I can't believe you
Sheeple.
believed it. Sheeple. So they were like, we have to study this. Like, this keeps happening, and I believe that the strontium is going to be at dangerous levels for everybody. So Project Sunshine was born with that way too happy name for what was happening. And in 1955, there was a meeting of the Atomic Energy Commission, which came up with some of the specifics of testing and urged researchers to start using their contacts in other countries to discreetly get a hold of tissue and bone samples without disclosing the nature of the research. They did not get permission from the deceased prior to their death, if they knew they were dying, or permission from their grieving families, but just said, do whatever you can to get these bodies. In 1995, a transcript from one of the early Project Sunshine meetings was finally released, again in the 90s. It was public after an investigation into what was actually going on, and one of the main people behind the project, his name is Dr. Willard Libby, was quoted as saying, "I don't know how to get them, but I do say that it is a matter of prime importance to get them, and particularly in the young age group. So human samples are the prime importance, and if anybody knows how to do a good job of body snatching, they need to serve their country and help us."
Okay.
And he went on to win a Nobel Prize in chemistry, and then he died in the 80s, never to defend himself or explain anything. But the project started out as a secret, these secret underground meetings in 1955, and then the next year in 1956, it became public, but everyone just said, this research is important with the nuclear testing. We have full permission. We are using cadavers that were, like fully given to science. We're all good. So everyone was just kind of like, okay, except for the few
sure.
that said, I feel like they're stealing bodies, and the conspiracy was born. But it turned out to be true when all of the secret documents, I'm like tucking them behind because the U.S. was like, we are showing you everything. Here's the documents. Here's our studies. We are using cadavers that were given to us. We're good. But then in the 90s, the ones behind the back were pulled out, and it was
We
like,
lost these,
oh,
actually.
so where'd you get these infants? This one is from the UK. How'd you get them over here? So then it was revealed on this like big expose that came out in the 90s that they were having bodies of infants and toddlers shipped illegally to the US, shipped
Just
like body
packaged
parts. I think some just packaged up and sent over because the U.S. had some, backdoor contacts, as they do. And people working in hospitals and working in the morgue who were like, oh, yeah, I can get you that. And it was either bodies or sometimes just limbs being shipped over secretly and being hidden away. So there were more than 1,500 samples that came in from around the world, and many of them were cadavers of babies, and they were just all gathered by a team of secret agent body snatchers, and researchers were claiming that everything was fine, and like we were only using things out of absolute necessity. But
Question.
Who
is it? Question. Were they snatching babies because they were trying to see what radiation did to the next generation?
And, to the fetus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Who had been carried, which again is important,
Super important
to know. I understand why they wanted it but they were just so shady and gross. And if you're sitting there saying like, okay, things were different back then, they wouldn't have had access to get the bodies and like parts that they wanted.
Yes,
so maybe
they
this
would.
was the only way to go about it. I don't know. Yeah. First of all, they would. But if anyone out there, because I saw this in some comments while I was doing my research in different forums, people were like, listen, times were different. They were just doing what they had to do. And this science was so important. And I'm sitting here saying, yes, the research that they were looking for was so important. But this, I have to give a like emotional example. So I'm sorry, this story is a little upsetting, but I want you to understand what the parents of the deceased could have been going through when you try to defend it for science.
Yeah.
There was a woman in the UK who said she was not allowed to dress her child for the funeral because it had to be concealed from her that the legs had been taken off of her baby who died shortly after birth. And she just wanted to put her in her christening robe. And they said, no, we can't allow you to do that with no reason, just like pushing the mother out the door at her baby's funeral. So I know that is upsetting, but she, for years, was traumatized by that. And she didn't get to give her child, you know, that one last look and that proper goodbye. But they couldn't show her the baby's body because they taken
took the fucking
its legs to send for research. And she found out with the rest of the world in the 90s and then was interviewed for a couple different magazines. And then I think, you know, some of this was on the news and on the different, you know, like 2020s and all of that. And she was like, I never got to dress my baby. I thought about it for years. And now I know they were just keeping this a secret because I would have called them out immediately. And it's upsetting, I think, for the families who were grieving and just like, you have to get permission.
Yeah.
It's just so shady. So that was a conspiracy theory that seemed so wild and taboo at the time, but actually totally ended up being true.
Well, and I think those types of conspiracy theories, like, even for the people who are like, listen, it was a different time. It's like totally. But this just goes to show you how much shit is being done that is not being disclosed to you, that maybe we shouldn't immediately dismiss people who say like, hey, something seems weird here. You know what I mean? Because
something's off. Yeah.
It could be that they are absolutely right.
And that was part of the reason I brought it up, because it's like, there are a couple of times where we talk about it on the show all the time where it's like, hey, we should be questioning this weird thing the government is doing a bit more. Like there are some shady things that happen. This was a perfect example of where that guy who was quoted in, you know, the released files saying like, do whatever you have to do. Like if you think you can be good at body snatching, like serve your country right now because we need it. And like did not care who was behind any of it. So that was one that seemed wild and then was true. And just like blew everyone's mind. And then this one, I've been seeing more and more on TikTok. I don't know why it's been fed to me lately. And I'm sure a lot of people know about this one, but the pictures are just so fascinating to me. The Challenger space shuttle conspiracy theory.
What is it? The Challenger?
The Challenger space shuttle conspiracy.
Yes.
It's wild. And like so many websites have debunked it and said this is why this couldn't be true, and I'm like mostly on that side, but gosh, like the research that went into this and some of the photos are just wild. So I'm going to pull up photos again. I was all about presentation today.
Hell yeah.
But first, just to review everyone, the Challenger. On the morning of January 28th, 1986, NASA lost its first astronauts to an in-space accident where all 7 members of the Space Shuttle Challenger crew were lost when a booster engine failed and caused the Challenger to break apart just 73 seconds after launch. Very sadly killed in that accident were a teacher who was just along for the ride who had been selected, Sharon Krista McAuliffe, a payload specialist Gregory Jarvis, astronauts Judith Resnick, mission specialist Francis Richard Scobie, mission commander Ronald McNair, Michael J. Smith, the pilot, and Ellison Onizuka, mission specialist. And the government quickly launched an investigation into why it exploded, obviously, because it was in front of family and friends. It was broadcast on TV. It was very upsetting and hard to watch.
Yeah.
And it was found that during liftoff, 2 rocket boosters were meant to provide the space shuttle with the necessary thrust, and the boosters' joints had been sealed by rubber O-rings, which were designed to seal the gap and prevent hot gases from leaking. That morning, it was unusually cold in Florida, 36 degrees Fahrenheit at the time of the launch, and engineers had warned, weeks before and the very night before that temperatures might be too cold for the O-rings and they could weaken the seal. Which, like, what's crazy is this isn't even, like, part of the conspiracy that's online. But I read about this and was like, what? People had been warning about it forever. There's, like, a couple whistleblowers who were, like, fired immediately when they were like, I don't think you should do this. The launch was delayed 2 hours to allow ice to melt off of the launch pad, but it wasn't enough to prevent disaster in everyone's eyes, so they went forward with it. The O-rings failed, hot gases escaped, and the explosion happened. So it wasn't great. And government inquiries, you know, they're trying to confirm the decision to go forward with this, you know, from the very beginning. Like, why are people saying this is a bad idea? And basically, everyone who was behind the project just said, I think if we do everything else right, it'll be fine. It's not enough to just say no. Like, we have to try it at some point. And they were right to some extent, because as this investigation went on, there was no misconduct found, no rules were broken, no one lied or falsified records. It was technically okay to try flight, but it wasn't amazing. There wasn't enough confidence in it, so that was upsetting. But
so no one,
there were plenty of people who said
no one ended up getting punished for the Challenger. Yeah, okay.
It was just like, yeah, this happened. That's unfortunate and like
tragic.
Obviously, we feel for the families, but we have to learn from this and move on. So yeah, as much as plenty of people believe the launch shouldn't happen and there was the O-ring controversy, it was deemed an acceptable risk and they followed the rules and went forward with it. But that's not even the craziest part. So nearly 30 years later, in May of 2015, the online world came up with this rumor questioning the Challenger crew and if they were dead or alive, because there are people resembling them both physically and having the exact same name and the approximate age many of them would be living and working in the United States. So it was brought forth that these people existed. So of the 7 crew members who were there with new professions and like looked the same whatever, six of the crew members were found to have doppelgangers and the same name. There was only one crew member who nobody ever matched up.
That's
and
so
that
insane.
that is a little wacky.
It's totally wacky.
So,
but have we, because I've seen this conspiracy theory a couple times and I've seen some of the photos, has it been verified that the people are real?
Okay, so that is another thing that is interesting, and I'm sharing the screen now with the photo of their doppelgangers, which I'm going to start talking about one by one, who everyone is. But there's 2 of them that involve siblings, and I could not find anything on when the sibling was born, like any birth records, which I didn't do a full deep dive, let's be clear. I took the tinfoil hat off. I didn't totally spiral. If I did more research, maybe I would find a birth record and be like, oh, it's all fake. But the 2 siblings were the ones I dug slightly deeper on, and I couldn't find much on them.
Okay.
And in general, I just have to say, researching this conspiracy is difficult, which, like, anytime I've Googled a conspiracy theory, I can type in, like, 3 basic words involved in the theory, and a million articles will pop up, or all these Reddit threads. But when you type in Challenger shuttle conspiracy theory, it's hard to find a lot on it. I mean, it's mostly just immediate articles saying we fact-checked it and it's false and you're all idiots.
Yeah.
But you can't get a ton of research on the astronauts or their family members or these doppelgangers. I mean, you can see where the doppelgangers work and are now, but I don't know how serious the birth records are, like what's going on. So anyway, the first one I wanted to get to is up here in our left corner. It's Richard Scobie. Commander Francis Richard Scobie was 46 when he died in the Challenger explosion. He would be 75 years old if he were alive today. And strangely, I'd hope there's a way you guys can see this clearly. I don't know how it'll look on the video version, but they absolutely look like they're the same person, just aged. Same name, Richard Scobie. He is the CEO of a Chicago marketing company called Cows in Trees. And another thing that is a bit more of a stretch, but was interesting, is the logo for his company is a cow attached to a jetpack, like spinning through the air, and the clouds going behind the jetpack kind of look similar to the way the Challenger explosion looked in the sky.
Okay.
It's reaching a tad, I will say that. But it's also like, well, why did you choose this logo? Because he's not in a tree. He has a jetpack on, so it's weird.
Yeah.
These two probably look the most alike to me. This was the one that blew my mind. I just like, these two Richard Scobies have to be the same person in my eyes. They have the same face.
They really do. They have the exact same eyes.
Yes, that is what he would
Same
look
mouth.
like. Yeah. So I'm a bit blown away by
Totally.
it. But moving on. Then we have, born on October 21st, 1950, Challenger's mission specialist Ronald McNair, the second African-American astronaut with a PhD in physics. He would now be 64 years old if he had not perished in the explosion, and he would probably look just like the picture of his brother, who is in the side-by-side. They do look a lot alike. Some theories say, again, it is so hard to find facts on this, but some websites claim it is a twin. Others say it's just a younger brother. I couldn't find evidence to for sure say what year he was born.
One way or the other.
Because there's not a lot of information on Carl the brother. But apparently he has a brother
Carl
named
the
Carl who's in
brother.
this picture. So we don't know any of his personal information, but we do know that he is walking around town being an author and giving, going to public speaking events and talking to, young scientists or young wannabe astronauts and sharing his brother's story and sharing, especially with young Black men, why it's so important to go into the field and how proud he is of his brother, which is all very beautiful, how he's honoring his memory. But when you look him up and his hometown and his parents' names and you try to connect him with Ronald, there just isn't a lot on him, which is bizarre to me. But who knows? Maybe it's truly his brother. Then again, along the sibling line, we have mission specialist Ellison Onizuka, the first Japanese-American astronaut, also has a look-alike brother, could potentially be his twin or maybe just his older brother Claude. Ellison, who went on the mission, was born in 1946 in Hawaii. He would be 68 years old if he had not died. The man side by side with him absolutely looks like he could be that age, but could just, again, be his brother. Their faces look pretty identical. And I, again, cannot find a lot of information other than on Wikipedia or on, whatever website gives you... There were, 3 different websites which gave all the information for Ellison. And for Claude, it was just and he's the brother, but then nothing else. So I don't know. But we'll see. And then the Judith Resnick was the other astronaut on there. I think her picture looks also very, very close, similar to Richard Scobie.
Very close.
This one is the next
And to
in
have
line
the
for me.
same name is just...
I know.
And to be as smart. One was a Challenger mission specialist and the other's a Yale law professor.
Ivy League. Hello.
You're also smarties? How'd that happen, doppelganger?
And how did you age perfectly in line with the other Judith?
Yeah.
So, yeah, this one is also really wild. Judith Resnick is a lawyer teaching law school at Yale and USC, and she's been holding down this job and pretending to be the other Judith for all this time, if you believe that. And then the last one they could find a connection with, because again, there was another crew member who just nobody has found the doppelganger for, but Sharon Krista McAuliffe was a social studies teacher at Concord High School in New Hampshire, and she was selected from more than 11,000 applicants to participate in the NASA Teacher in Space project. And if Challenger had not exploded, she would be the first teacher in space. McAuliffe would be 66 years old today. And there is another Sharon McAuliffe, who is a professor, so goes in line career-wise.
Teacher.
Teacher at Syracuse University College of Law. Never knew how much I'd
read her.
Yep.
I don't know.
We tried.
She's
a professor at Syracuse University College of Law, and she looks a little like the astronaut McAuliffe, the astronaut teacher McAuliffe.
That one's definitely, I would say, the furthest away, but still
where you're
similarities for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Stretch, but okay. Same name.
30-year time lapse. People commented on the cowlick of the hair, which I'm like, a lot of people's cowlick could go that way, but I see what you're saying, and they have the same name.
Yeah, I see it.
Both teachers. It's not that crazy. And then the last one, Michael J. Smith, who bears again, not the best, but a little bit of a resemblance to NASA Challenger pilot.
I see that one.
Yeah. Okay. So Ashley
Yeah.
sees it again. Like
I see
you
that
can
one
think,
for
you
sure.
can think what you want. Just like take this information in with whatever power you want to. But this Michael J. Smith looks a lot like NASA Challenger pilot Michael J. Smith, who was on, on the shuttle. He might be alive and well teaching at University of Wisconsin in Madison, and he would be 69, which like totally goes in line with this man because this picture that is side by side is a 69-year-old Michael J. Smith. Same name, same age, enough similarities to make you say, "What?"
Huh?
So,
Could it be?
could it be? And it's just, yeah, I'm just trying to give credit to the research done on this because the pictures are crazy and they have the same name, similar looks. The Social Security death index for all 7 Challenger crew members, not all 7 are listed there, but 4 of them are. And some of the debunking sites were saying, like, don't rely on the Social Security website. I guess it's not completely dependable. And, like, they list most people, but not everybody, whatever. So their claims could be missing. But the only 4 out of the 7 were on there. Where are the other 3? Where are the birth records for those siblings? What's going on? It could be just total coincidence, but it does make you, just for a moment, want to believe.
Strap on that tinfoil hat. Yeah, because my question was always like, okay, why?
Why would this happen?
Why would they
Right.
do that? Why would they,
What do they
if they
gain?
were, if the supposed crew members of the Challenger were not actually the people that went up on that rocket and then the rocket exploded and they didn't actually die, why would they keep their same names?
Yeah, if you're going to assume a new identity and like,
Like,
make this
wouldn't they get
completely
new
be a lie, get a new name.
Yeah.
I know. I
Yeah.
don't know what they would gain at all. And that's part of the reason that I'm like, this probably isn't real. Because why, who, what, where? But I don't know. It's interesting, especially that people thought it shouldn't happen.
For sure. The thing that would obviously debunk this the most would be, I've seen family members of the Challenger on the news and I've seen interviews with them and I've
And them
seen
saying,
them
"How dare you,
saying
this
how
is
tragic it was."
Right.
Yeah, and then especially in this case being like, okay, well, I went to my sister's funeral, so if you're telling me she's alive and well
Completely.
and she never contacted me to tell me that she survived this or her kids, like it just doesn't it doesn't pan out
Agree.
to be anything. But
I totally agree.
it is
but
also
it just makes you say,
weird
what?
that all the members of this astronautical adventure have doppelgangers with the same name as them. Like that to me is like just as strange as them being the same, quote unquote, same people.
Right. So I'm almost like, okay, say like, yes, they did very sadly, perish that day. Then like, what is the deal with these doppelgangers in the same name?
Why
like,
do they
what?
have people that have the same name that look exactly like them
I
that should
know.
be the exact same age as them? It's almost as if like sometime our reality shifted and like 2 dimensions came together and
Merged,
like we
yeah.
all have a doppelganger out there somewhere with
Right.
our like same name. If they're still, alive in the world, we have a doppelganger with the same name and the same everything, and we just like
Right.
have no
Yep.
idea.
Yep. And they weren't supposed to merge, but they did.
I
know. It's
I
wild.
hate
I
it.
hate it so much. Conspiracies, man.
Hey, am I crazy or why is it an hour and 20 minutes? Like, what happened?
Where did time go?
I feel like our stories were not that long. It was just sort of like I
Have we
looked at
been
the time and it
talking
was
that
like an
much?
hour.
Sorry,
But
everyone.
anyways, that's all the time we have this week for Keep It Weird. I did have a segment, one more segment, but we'll save it for not next time because next week we have a listener, a ghost stories. Ooh, ooh, ooh. We have a listener ghost stories coming your way, and it is going to be jam-packed with really creepy stories for you guys, sent in by you. Written by you, experienced by you. It's going to be very good. But then the episode after that, I'll bring this segment that I was going to bring today. It's going to be about cellular memory and organ transplants. Essentially, people receiving organs from donors, and it changes their personality somehow.
I can't.
How, you may ask? We'll find out in a few weeks. So, in the meantime, thank you so much for listening to our show. Hopefully watching our show, because we are now on YouTube, youtube.com/keepitweirdpodcast. You can find a bunch of clips. You can find some full episodes. You can find some links to other people's YouTubes we've been a part of. And it's a good time. You can find a bunch of This Week in Weirds. We also did a series. It's like our most popular series we ever did. We only ever did 2 episodes, so we should really do it again, but called What Was That?
Oh my gosh,
which
that
is
was
where
so
we
fun.
watched paranormal videos sent in to us. So maybe we'll do some more of that this year. That would be fun. Check out our Patreon, please, if you like our show and you want to continue listening and watching it. www.patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast, and you can find ways to donate some cashola to Keep It Weird, and all the funds go to me and Lauren and producing this show. And you also get bonus episodes. Joe and I just recorded an hour-long Ask Me Everything that is so much fun. That should be up tomorrow.
Oof. I'm glad. I can't lie. I'm glad yours is so much fun. Me and Julia made one of the most depressing episodes ever, but it's fascinating. I know. We're the worst.
Okay, so we're going to be...
I know. Total opposite.
You get a little bit of each.
It's very interesting and a good discussion, but it gets sad. So I'm glad we have a little of both.
Joe and I get we go off the rails. So you'll be happy. Listen to Lauren's first.
Yes. Get real sad
cheered up.
and then, go.
Yeah. Listen to Keep It Cheered. Get cheered up with Keep It
Ask Me
Seared.
Everything. Keep it seared.
/ Ask Me Everything / whatever we want to call it these days. Also, make sure you follow us on social media at Keep It Weirdcast on Instagram and Twitter, and like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can be the first to know when a new video or clip or segment or news show is dropped. But it's time. Hate bees. It's hive mind. This week's hive mind, Lauren, you are sending me an image. I'm going to try and guess the Zener card. For everyone who missed out on our past episodes, Zener cards were created sometime 60s or 70s. I don't remember when, but I told you already on an episode, and you just turned the episode off before we got to it. So whose fault is that?
How dare you?
They look like this. There are several shapes on these cards. Lauren is going to try and psychically send me one. Now, Lauren, what I want you to do, same as we did last week, we're going to build on it, though. When you see the image in your mind, I want you to see it as a flashing image. Flashing instead of solid.
Okay.
And we're going to see if that does anything for us to help us with our psychic journey. Right. Again, triangle, square, squiggly line, plus sign, or circle.
There is no triangle. It's a star.
It's a fucking star.
I'm going to murder you.
Wait, I might have seen that one. Hold on. I'm going to do a different one because I have my eyes open. Ready?
Sure. Oh, my God.
Can you see it?
Yes. Okay.
Right. Okay. Now, ready? Okay. Send it to me psychically. Square.
Yes! Yes!
Holy shit!
I
legitimately saw a square. Truly. And guess square. So, remember that tip.
Okay, the flashing. I was literally...
Okay.
I took everything out of my mind, like the first tip was, and then I just, I had it flashing in my brain. Oh my God, I'm so...
Okay. We will test this next
7,
week.
Whatever.
2 for 7. In the meantime, have a good week, guys, and keep it weird.